We want to bring in our national political reporter Scott Thuman now to talk more about the announcement from the White House from President Obama regarding the U.S. counterterrorism effort that resulted in the death of 2 American hostages. Scott, listening to the president, it was evident how painful this is, obviously, for the families and for him as well, given his frequent role in the sort of ultimate decision-making process when opportunities to go after folks like al-Qaeda operatives present themselves.
Yeah, absolutely, Bruce. And I don't want to repeat too much of what the president said during those comments, only to add that, look, this has to be one of the most difficult admissions any president can make. We got word late this morning that the president was going to be entering the briefing room to make comments about this. But to stand before the cameras and essentially apologize for the deaths in the manner in which he did has to be sobering, to say the very least. You know, beyond what happened with Warren Weinstein is this greater context of debate in how far we go in trying to take out terror cells. Now, the president making very clear that we did not know that he was in that particular compound, and in fact, to some degree, blamed al-Qaeda for using him, putting him there, knowing that, of course, that might deter some sort of attack. But that is the ultimate difficulty in tracking down some of these people. Now, in addition to these 2 terrible deaths, these victims, the American and Italian, there was also a side announcement here by the White House of the deaths of 2 other Americans who had been working on behalf of al-Qaeda. Ahmed Farouk, who was an American who the White House says was an al-Qaeda leader operating overseas, as well as a man by the name of Adam Gaddan, who was a bit of a spokesperson for the terror network. Both of them killed in separate operations. But it just shows the complexity of this entire endeavor, and the president having to apologize. Really just stark moments to see the president apologize for the death of an American like that.
Though he's not apologizing in the sense that there was something that happened that shouldn't have. There was a green light on an operation that, as with all operations like this, carry risk. So he's expressing understandable regret at the loss of life, but there's no sense, as I hear the president speak, that they should have known things they didn't know. I'm not trying to get involved in extended wordplay here. But
no, you raise a good point. Look, there is a legality that comes with these attacks. They have to be signed off, and there was approval for this particular attack. I think that the couching of words is understandable because you want to say, well, do we know that there's a risk an American might be in there? They lost track of Warren Weinstein, so they did not have any indication he might be in there, and they have, for the most part, this administration under counterterrorism actions worked through an abundance of caution. They probably would not have ever gone to these lengths had they thought there was a possibility he would be in that compound. They were going after people that they thought were a good target, that it was a clean target, and that's why they moved forward. At least that's our understanding of it. But, Bruce, there is this added layer of nuance when you look at regions like the Pakistani-Afghan border. That is an area that, while we have some intelligence assets on the ground, they are few and far between. It is a lawless region. The terrain, the weather, everything else becomes difficult there. So sometimes you get intel, you track movements, and you make decisions based on those. Warren Weinstein had been missing for quite some time and unaccounted for. So they might have lost track of his whereabouts years ago, and we just don't know. But at this point, it looks like they thought they had a clean attack. They went for it. They found out about this months ago, and it was only now that it's been declassified. And that's another important conversation here, Bruce, is that the president kind of wanted to say, and he wasn't too shy about saying it, but he said, look, we in the United States, we're still an open democracy. If we make a mistake, we are going to admit it, and therefore we're going to learn from it, and that's what differentiates us from some other governments. He wanted to press that point, but ultimately had to come back to the most glaring of all points, and that is that we have mistakenly killed an American hostage.
And briefly, Scott, listening to the president talk about Warren Weinstein and Giovanni Leporto, why they were where they were, why they were in positions where they could be taken hostage, it's a reminder that people from this country and other nations are in the 4 corners of the globe doing what they can to help the less fortunate.
Well, and that's absolutely right. You look at someone who used to work with the Peace Corps and then who was over in Pakistan doing humanitarian work. All the way to what journalists do. There are so many opportunities now, unfortunately, for those who are selfless and are over there working in a capacity to try and raise awareness or help others. that they're also then susceptible to these kidnappings and these hostage-taking situations by Al-Qaeda, by al-Nusra, by any of these other terror groups right now operating in that region. And there is a larger vulnerability, perhaps over the past few years, in this campaign than we've seen in previous years. Ever since 2003, when we saw the capture and beheading of Nicholas Berg, it kind of was a wake-up call for a lot of people that now we are entering a different phase of how we handle this terrorism front. And we see it every so often evolve into such a terrible, sobering incident as the one we just witnessed.
Our senior political reporter, Scott Thuman, joining us from our Capitol Hill bureau with analysis of the big breaking news from the White House, from President Obama, that an American counterterrorism operation that apparently has killed 2 Americans working with Al-Qaeda also sadly killed 2 hostages, 1 American, 1 Italian, 2 aid workers being held by Al-Qaeda. Thank you, Scott.